Hi, welcome to the More Than Real Estate podcast, where we talk about building a real estate business and a life you actually love. I'm Ashley Walker, a mama, wife to my best friend, top producing real estate agent, and real estate coach who believes your business should work for your life and not the other way around. This podcast isn't going to be just about selling houses. We're going to be talking about real life too, balancing motherhood and business, building a brand that feels exactly like you. We touch on topics like motherhood, money mindset, marriage, mental health, some woo-woo conversations, and the future of real estate. I'm bringing you real conversations, real strategies, and real stories. No fluff, no fake highlight reels here. If you're ready for an honest, open conversation about what it actually takes to build a business and a life you're proud of, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the More Than Real Estate podcast. This week's episode is super fun to me because I get to have a longtime socially sold coach on the podcast, which feels so good. We've been trying to put this podcast together for months, but Riley is so busy in her real estate business. It's been like, can I fit you in here? Can I fit you in here? And finally, we found a time that works. So I'm so excited about this podcast episode. Riley has been a coach in the program for almost a year. She was in my first container of socially sold almost 2 years ago. I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And she is an agent who came in and did the work. She, prior to the course, was not lead generating on Instagram. And 2 years later, or like almost 2 years later, her life looks very different in the best way. And I just think about if Riley had never put herself in the room with me and the socially sold program, like would her business be what it is today? Probably not. And that's such a cool thing to think about, is that we have the autonomy of our business to make or break by how we invest in our business. So anyways, I'm going to let Riley open up and talk a little bit about herself, and then we're going to go through some Q&A. This conversation is going to be really helpful because Riley is known for not going viral, not having thousands of followers, and the third thing is the most important, not getting in her head because of it, and instead her business blowing up because her content goes to the right people, which is what we preach all the time. So I think any agent, wherever you're at in your business, you're going to get a lot of value from Riley, and I cannot wait for this podcast. So Riley, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Riley Hoffer. I am a realtor in Mount Dora, Florida. So I am about 40 minutes northwest of Orlando. I have been in the industry overall for about 5 years, but I've been on my own as a solo agent for only about 3. So I am still, still kind of new in the business, but I've had, a lot of transactions under my belt the past few years.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through, before socially sold, what did your business look like? What did your Instagram strategy look like? Where were you at? I feel like if I remember right, you were kind of wanting your business to start to take off. And
Yeah. So I got my license, got set up with a brick and mortar brokerage in July of 2023. And so I was really just starting out fresh on my own. Like I said, I was with a brick and mortar brokerage at the time. And so it was a great place to start, but I knew I wanted something a little bit more technologically savvy because I knew I wanted to generate leads on Instagram, on social media. And so I had no idea where to start. So I was looking online for, coaches and courses and trying to figure out just, how to get my bearings, because when you're a new agent, you just literally have no idea where to go, especially if you don't have a mentor.
Yes.
And so I found Ashley's course in January of 2024, and it really just sort of revolutionized my business because I was coming in. I had a little bit of new construction experience in sort of the interior design and upgrades world, but transitioning into the sales side was new for me. And so I needed to learn the basics and how to, promote myself and show up on Instagram on a daily basis, because I knew that's where I wanted to generate leads. So that's sort of where I got started.
Okay. And so when you were in the coaching program, when is your business, I think a lot of people want to know timelines. I'm a timeline girly too. How long is it going to take me to make this sourdough bread? Or how long is it going to take me to whatever it is, right? And so if you could give somebody the blueprint, not that you're saying this is what everybody's going to see, but what you saw when you started to get leads and then when you started to close deals, and kind of what your business looks like now.
Yeah. So I started the course in January of 2024. I got my first lead in March of 2024 and then closed that first deal in April. And so I always tell my, coaching students, I always tell them not everybody's success looks like that. It does not always happen that quickly. And everybody needs to be okay with that going in because this is a long-term strategy. But for me, it did turn around pretty quickly, and so that was really encouraging. But I always like to tell people too, I was posting 4 to 5 times a week. I was really drilled in on my ideal client, and so I think that's something too I always try to emphasize with my coaching students is, "Hey, you gotta do the work in order to get the results."
100%. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you closed your first deal in the first 4 months. What would you say, like, okay, take me back to, like, this time last year. What
Mhm.
was your business like? And then kinda, like, has it gotten even better this time this year, right? Because you 'Cause you're about a year and a half from since you started lead generating on Instagram, and so I just
Yeah.
want people to, like, I wanna paint that picture of how Instagram is a lifelong lead source. Like,
Yes.
it's not a lead source that's just gonna abandon you. It gets better with time. It's like marriage or a relationship. Like,
Mhm.
if you're in the right marriage, it just gets better. You just start to become more obsessed with each other, and so speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got that first lead, closed that one in April. And from there, I saw sort of steady but unsteady sort of leads over the next year, the remainder of the year. So I think I closed somewhere between, I don't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere between like 3 and 4 million off of Instagram leads last year.
Ama
So, stepping into this year, in a calendar year 2025, what I've noticed is that leads have just gotten more consistent, which has been really nice for me because I'm in a really small town. My town is less than 20,000 people. I'm in a suburb of Orlando, but it's a little bit of a sleepier suburb, a little bit more of a retirement, lower pace of life town. And so I am not ever, expecting, 12 leads in 1 month and people just flooding into my area. I know that is just not realistic for the sort of pace and business that I have here. But what has been so nice for me is that these Instagram leads have been consistent. So they have been month after month. And they are people who are ready, willing, and able to get started, which has been really nice.
Yeah. So do you know your production year to date of this year? If you don't, that's fine.
I do not, I think it's somewhere between like 2.5 and 3 million so far this year.
Perfect.
And so I will sort of top last year's production with what I have
Right.
in the pipe.
Right, and I think for a lot of people, like, they can see numbers like I do where it's like 15 million a year. We're on track to do like 17, maybe 17 to 20 million this year. I don't know if we'll hit it, but that's what we're on track for. And I think some people can think like maybe that's intimidating or like, can I do that? Really, it's like even if you are like Riley, you get an extra 4 to 5 million in your pipeline a year. I mean, 5 million at 3% is $150,000. Like, that's a really nice paycheck from Instagram when it's clients that you like to work with. And I know you can speak to this, you're not spending your days making content. You might be
No.
spending, what, 1 to 2 hours a week?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere between like an hour and a half to 2 hours a week simply because I need to, plan the home tours, plan to go take all the content. I will also say though, when I'm going to get the content, I'm also recording for YouTube, and so that's a little bit different. But editing takes no time at all now. It is nice and easy breezy once I've, start to put those principles into place.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I have a question. I wanna say something really exciting. I'm gonna say it, and then if you're not gonna do it, you can just say no. But I
Okay.
think we're coming out with a YouTube module inside the Socially Sold course. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was like, "You're not gonna do it." We've been in the works about it, and Riley's been like, "I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do it." So, coming in 2026, and if you invest in the course before then, you'll get access to all updates because you get lifetime access. We will have a module in the Socially Sold course where Riley will be teaching her YouTube strategy. So
Mhm.
I don't want to get off the topic of obviously Instagram. And I guess speak to this too. Instagram is still easier than YouTube, correct?
Yes and no. Yes, in the content creation realm.
Yes.
And then in other ways, I feel like YouTube is a little bit easier. Instagram, and we can get into as much of this as you want, but Instagram is you have to show up a lot and you have to be present on a, regular daily basis.
Right.
Whereas YouTube, you kind of just post it and leave it,
Okay.
which is nice. So there's a little bit of both there. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's been
So
fun.
maybe the content takes longer on YouTube to create, but it lives there longer. Where Instagram, you can post a 7-second reel and get clients without having to do any editing, any talking, any of that.
Absolutely.
Probably the duo is gonna be like the trifecta is gonna be the best. And
Hmm.
I'm so excited we're gonna have a module inside the course I'm just so excited about it. It's gonna be so good. A small market. You said you have 17,000, less than 20,000. I know because we've talked a zillion times. You have like 17,000 people in your city. So in a small market, many agents would feel pressured to broaden their reach, right? They would go, oh my gosh, 17,000 is too small. Like it won't work, right? All those doubts. What was the exact moment you decided to double down on hyperlocal content? And what made you confident in your smaller, more targeted audience that that was the right path?
Yeah, so I think it was twofold. I think when I was starting out, I've told you this story so many times. You and I had this conversation of I am 40 minutes outside of Orlando. I don't do life in Orlando. I do life in Mount Dora. And so do I want to, advertise and say, here are the best Orlando communities to move to if you're relocating to the area. Do I want to do that and drive 45 minutes to an hour every time I have to show a buyer a home? Or do I want to dig really deep instead of wide roots, dig deep roots and really invest in my local community and just focus on the town that I want to serve? And so I think that was really that first conversation with you when we were getting started was my my permission essentially to really dive in and to go all in that. And then I think secondary thing, which has shown up a lot more for me over the past, 6 months or so, I would say. I started seeing this in spring, is I now will go out in the community on a regular basis and people will recognize me. And again, I only have, well, I haven't said this yet. I only have like 1,500 followers on Instagram. I do not have a big audience by any means. And so to be recognized through my content on a platform where I only have 1,500 followers, that is showcasing that what we're doing works if you do it well. And
100%.
so those sort of two scenarios combined have just solidified over the past year and a half as I've been doing this that I am where I'm supposed to be and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
100%. And what's really cool about it is when Riley started the program, I don't know exact follower count, but I think you had like 200 or ish followers.
Yeah, something like
And
that.
so it's been a slow growth for you. I mean, you've been on the platform a year and a half, and some would look and go, oh, 1,300 followers in a year, like that's not worth it. You're going, no, I'm just getting the right people in my city.
Mhm.
And when we think about when I hear agents talk about, oh, I need all the followers, I need all the viral reels, I think, do you want that or do you just have a big ego? Because what you really need is the right followers and the right eyes on your reels. You don't need the most eyes on your. The reason I think that I had the success I had early on was one, I had a larger city than 20,000, but two, I was just one of the first people to do it in the industry. And so when you're kind of the trailblazer, sometimes you can get the most traction. But if you told me if I could get as dialed in of an algorithm as Riley has to a small audience and to a small city, I would prefer that just as much because it's just as powerful. We're seeing it. I mean, over the next, her being in the online for less than 2 years, she'll have closed like 10 million in production. Like
Mhm.
numbers are not replicated with 1,500 followers anywhere else unless they're dialed in followers.
Absolutely.
So if you're in your head about the size of your city or that you don't go viral or that your content, like all of that, you're in the right place because that's not what we focus on in Socially Sold. It's quite the opposite. We're like, hey, get the ego out of your head. Let's focus on the real data that's actually going to convert. Okay. How do you consistently generate fresh, engaging content ideas that speak directly to your ideal client in just a town of 17,000 people? Can you give us examples? I know you're like the queen of hyperlocal content. So can you give us some examples of like pieces that have performed well for you and how you keep your content fresh? Hey, we're taking a quick pause from the podcast. If you're a realtor and you're listening to this, I know you're probably already hustling on Instagram, posting, maybe even feeling a little stuck or like you're blending in with every other agent in your city. Does that feel like you? If you're tired of chasing cold leads, tired of open houses, and you want Instagram to actually bring you real clients without spending hours a week on content, I want you to join my Instagram for Real Estate Agents Bootcamp. It's $97 for a standard ticket, and you can upgrade to VIP for $147. Highly recommend VIP because you get 5 bonus coaching calls with me before the main training every single day. I'm literally walking you through the exact strategies I use to close 1 to 2 houses a month just from Instagram. No paid ads, no media team, no dancing on camera, just real hyper local content that feels like you directed to your dream clients. It's $97. That's all you have to pay to be in a room with me learning Instagram strategies for 5 days. If you're sick of not knowing what to post or who to post to, this is the bootcamp for you. If you want to finally make Instagram your number one lead source and actually enjoy showing up online, grab the link to join the bootcamp in the show notes and I'll see you inside. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always try to, and I teach this to students in the course as well when I'm coaching. I always try to weave in things that I'm doing in my normal life into my content. Number one, because people want to see a little bit about what you're doing on a regular basis. But number two, those pieces of content, if you relate to your ideal client in any way, those sorts of content they give people a little bit of a glimpse of what that local life is like. And so for me, I just love going to, random restaurants and events and things in my community. There is a local bar that I go to every season, and every season they have a different theme. So I went over the summer with my girlfriends and it was like an Alice in Wonderland theme. Then yeah, and in Halloween, they'll do Halloween theme, and so they change it up every year a little bit, but just doing that is something, I'm getting out a little bit in my community and showcasing a little bit of what the town looks like. So local stuff, my local highlights always do really well. And then let's see what else has done well. Another type of local content. So as opposed to me, being in it, adding a voiceover to it, something that performed really well for me this week was just a simple list of places that I'm going to go with my friends to grab drinks and dinner this fall. Talking about outdoor seating and, places to sit by the water because I'm in a lake town. So again, that local content performs really well for me. And then house tours have been performing better these past few weeks as I've been posting them. So I just posted a 60-second house tour walking through the whole property, and that one's doing well today.
Fun. I love it. What I love about it is that you're showing people. So I always say, what's the point? What's the job of a real estate agent? It's to be the local expert, right? That's like when we dumb our job down to what's the most at the core, our job. It's to be the local expert. And what's a better way than to be a local expert than online to thousands of people at a time on Instagram that works for you 24/7. Going back to it's a lasting lead source. Like it's not here's the problem I have with like traditional marketing, the cold calling, the door knocking. How do you know the other person on that end of the cold calling needs to sell their house? How do you know when you knock on a door that person's going to sell their You don't. But what you can do is you can dial in content, make hyper local content and conversion style content that we teach inside the course to your ideal client. And if people are hitting follow, if people are liking, if people are commenting for your guide, they're a warm lead. They're already interested in that thing and you're hitting them one to many instead of going one door to one door to one door, right? You're going to thousands of people at a time. Since you're not focused on viral content, what are some of the key metrics that you're focusing on in your hyperlocal content to make sure you're still getting the lead intake that you need?
I'm always really focused on engagement. And I mean engagement by who is watching my content. And I always look at the analytics to see at what point people drop off in the content. So if you you go into your professional dashboard and you can see at what point someone stops watching your video and scrolls on. And so that is always really important for me to sort of gauge, how long are people watching this piece of content. And then I'm also trying to see what kinds of comments am I getting? What kinds of DMs am I getting? Questions am I getting about this story that I'm posting or this home tour? I am always trying to make sure that I'm answering the questions before people ask them, because I think that's a part of value proposition that I bring to the table is, again, being that local expert, but also just being really knowledgeable in my field. And so trying to answer those questions for people. So once we get to that DM conversation, it's straight to the point of booking that call or booking that consult instead of, question after question after question. It's, hey, you look like a great agent in the area. I'm looking to move to the area. Can we go ahead and hop on a call and chat through what it would look like to work together?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you working with local buyers and sellers too?
I am.
Yeah. So this just goes to show that Riley built out a relocation brand archetype, but it doesn't mean because Riley has been doing this for a year and a half, her leads widen.
Mhm,
You start really narrow. That's what we teach in the course, and that's what works the best. But like Riley is closing local buyers and sellers and relocation because she has market share in her city
mhm.
digitally on the internet. They're just finding her as the real estate expert, but you can't get there until you have a clear niche to hone in on and focus on, right? And that's what I want people to like get across. Okay. So you manage to sell houses in 1 to 2 hours a week on Instagram. What would you say your top 2 to 3 time saving strategies would be? I don't know. Do you use the Susie bot?
I have not used it recently, but earlier this year I was playing with it quite a bit, and I always, play with it with students in the course. So the Susie bot has been helpful in planning out like long-term content um, long-term content plan. And then what's also been helpful is every now and then I'll put in, if I'm having trouble coming up with a caption, I'll put it in there and she gives me just something fantastic. And so that's been really great. Let's see
She's
what.
so good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are you back to your content at all?
Do and I'm not great at it, but I do try. The reason I'm not great at it is because I have to put it on my calendar and, go record the thing. And as we all know, real estate and life kicks in every now and then.
Yeah.
But batching is something I definitely want to get better at over these next
Yeah.
few weeks.
So, like, batching content and then posting every day would take her so much less time because the content's already batched. That's what we're talking about. Not like scheduling out posts weeks in advance because that can mess up your algorithm and that feels inauthentic. Kind of just like getting the content we need and being able to post it when we know it's going to perform well. Okay, walk us through the journey of a typical client who finds you on Instagram. What does that initial DM look like? And then take me through that sales process for you.
Yeah. So I will give you an example of a client I am working with now. So she found me on Instagram. She lives in the Caribbean and she is looking to buy a second home in the Mount Dora area. We started talking. This was probably May of this year. She sent me a message, said, "Hey, I'm looking to buy a second property in Mount Dora. Would love to hop on the phone and chat." So what my process looks like is I will send her a message, say, "Hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I would love to schedule a phone call. Here is my inquiry form. Would you go ahead and fill this out just so I have all your contact information straight? And then we will go ahead and put some time on the calendar to talk." So after she fills out that form, we hop on the phone and I just have a general phone calls, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, just sort of hearing what her process is, sort of her timeline, getting her wish list, budget, those sorts of items. That's just an initial qualifying phone call for me to make sure that this person is actually ready to go and ready to buy. If they're ready to buy, then I can move forward with the process. If they're ready, to go within the next 3 months or so. But if they are 4, 5, 6+ months out, I'm going to pivot that conversation into more of a, um, here's what we can do next, but we're not quite ready to, start touring properties sort of conversation. So once we got off that qualifying phone call, I said, would love to meet you via Zoom and walk through sort of what it looks like to work with me. And then I will set that full buyer consultation. We'll go over the BBA and go over what it looks like to work with me in terms of touring properties and how we like to. I use Real Scout so I can see people's behavior online, what kind of properties they're interested in, that sort of thing. And then after we had that qualifying phone call, I walked her through that consultation. Then we sort of go back and forth with travel plans because she is from out of town. It is always sort of dependent on what people's travel plans look like and when we're going to be able to schedule those tours. And so from there, it is, as usual. So we'll set up some tours, make sure, all the good paperwork is signed and then get started. But what I'm really listening for in the buyer consult and in that first qualifying phone call, I'm listening for what sort of lifestyle and attributes are really important for them in a property because a lot of times, and I know everyone listening to this is probably familiar with the situation, we hear things sometimes in their conversations that don't necessarily coincide with the type of property that they're looking for.
Yes.
And that happens a lot here in the area. And so that's why I try to provide a lot of, home tours and information on Instagram. But I plan our first round of tours to make sure that we are checking all the boxes. And then next round of tours, I let them select some homes. So
Yeah.
uh,
So I love that because it's like they want a $400,000 house, but they want an in-ground pool. And you're like, that's probably not going to go inside. So, like, can we up our budget or do we need to be more realistic? I do the same thing on my buyer consult. And I think it's a better experience for you and the customer because
absolutely.
they're not hit with like these, oh, shoot, it really isn't going to happen. You're already setting that expectation up from the jump.
Mhm.
Okay. I had a question and it flew out of my head because I'm pregnant, I think. But what are some of your favorite things inside of the course, the Socially Sold course?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have loved the content calendar as of late. I've been using it to sort of brainstorm the past few weeks. And so that's been really fantastic. Let's see. I also love the guide templates. I think those are fantastic. And let's see. I think those are my two favorites.
Okay, cool. What do you love about being a Socially Sold coach? So, for anybody listening, buying the course, you're going to get Riley, Abby, and Megan and me, 4 coaches inside the course. So, what is your favorite thing about coaching?
It's so fun. I love seeing people's transformations. So, if you're not familiar and you're listening, we run on a like 2 to 3 month cycle in the course. And so we'll start live calls and for instance, we started a new cohort in September. And so we'll end that one, I believe, end of October. And so what's so fun is that I've now been coaching for long enough that I can sort of see these cycles in people and
Yeah.
anticipate what is to come within these cohorts. And so it's always fun to watch people come into the course and be overwhelmed at the beginning with where to start before they have their brand build call with me.
Yep.
They are sort of frazzled. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. And then to watch people's confidence and to watch them get leads and to get downloads on their guides and to get comments on their pieces of content. It's so fun to watch people grow over those, 8 weeks, what have you. And just to see, it's really a confidence thing for me to watch them go from
Good.
not knowing what on earth they're doing to being these real estate professionals, these local experts in their area, and producing all of this fantastic content and it becoming more second nature for them too. I think that's so fun.
Yeah, that's like my favorite part too, is to see the transformation. And so many people have told me this was not just a real estate course, this was a confidence course in my
Absolutely.
business. And so that in of itself like makes me so excited. Okay, is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything an agent needs to know or anything you feel like is your special sauce before we hop off? This has been such a good
Ooh. Yeah.
conversation.
I always like to remind people that Instagram is a long term game.
Yes.
And it's a long term game, but it's also a long term investment because you are building something that will last as long as you want it to, but it just compounds on each other. So my last year was fantastic, but this year will be better. And I know next year will be better, and the next will be even better than that. It's not only in terms of production is fantastic, but it's also in my confidence and in my content creation skills and the creative muscles I get to flex when I'm doing this. And so I think if you are a realtor and you're not on Instagram yet and you're considering it, I definitely say take the jump. I say take the course, let's work together, let's build out your brand, and let's build you something that will last your career if you want it to.
Let's build you something that'll last way better than a cold call script or a door knocking script or an open house spiel. I don't know about you, Riley. Do you even do open houses anymore if they're not your listing?
If they're not my listings, don't.
Yeah. Yeah. We around here at Socially Sold do not do open houses unless they're our listing because we understand that Instagram is a better lead generation source
Mhm.
and it's better for our time management. And why would we go do a 3 hour open house on a Sunday if we don't have to? We're not
Yep.
going to. So thank you for coming on. This was so good. I'm so
Thank
glad we
you for
finally got to talk to you on the podcast. It's so good. And I'm so excited to hear and have some I know it's gonna resonate with so many people, like, we say you don't go viral, you don't have thousands of followers, like, you post content to a small city that's targeted directly to an ideal client to bring
Yeah.
in that ideal client, and it works every single month inside of your business. And that's the power of Instagram. That's the power of learning Instagram. Even if you're on Instagram, like there's so many realtors who are already posting on Instagram before they come in
Mhm.
the course. If you're not lead generating on Instagram, though, you need to be in the program 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll see everybody inside, and we'll see you next week on the More Than Real Estate podcast. All right, friends, that's it for today. If something hit home or made you think differently, screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, and tag me at Hey Ashley Walker so I can hype you up. Don't forget to peek at the show notes. I've linked up anything I mentioned and any next steps if you're ready to go deeper. Can't wait to hang out with you again next week, and let's keep building a business and a life that actually feels good. See you next week.